I've actually had a lot of union support in my campaigns that I've run down here. But I can tell you something that, as a point of observation. When I walk out into the Assembly parking lot, I very rarely see an American car made with American UAW workers. Now, we all say down here how much we care about the American workers, and yet we drive off in expensive foreign cars made in other countries. We need to start talking about what's really happening in this country, okay? 20 years ago, they ushered in something called the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and that was the thing that precipitated all the other subsequent trade deals that we've had in this country. That's not something that we're going to solve here in the State Assembly, but it is something that they ought to be solving down in Washington. If we had all the manufacturing jobs that we used to have just 20 years ago, there wouldn't be this big disparity between the richest Americans and the working class down at the bottom. We've sent a lot of jobs out of this country. Big multinational corporations that have no loyalty to America send jobs to the lowest wage countries that they can possibly do, countries that don't care about minimum wage laws, countries that don't care about workers' rights, women's rights. They don't care about pollution, environmental controls, and yet we send those jobs out of the country. And we also bring people into the country, illegal immigration and legal immigration. Back in the area where I live, there's a company called Xerox. Everybody's heard of them. The computer programmers that they've laid off at Xerox have been replaced with people who have come in from India that work for half the wage. It's a race to the bottom. And that's what we're experiencing, not only in this country, but in the world. If you can bring people in, legal and illegal, to work for less money, you're going to have a race to the bottom. So you can bring the minimum wage up eventually to $15 an hour. Sounds real good. $15 an hour is $30,000 a year. That doesn't really feed, clothe, and shelter a family of four. So we need to set an example by going out and buying American products when we're able to. We live in a pro-choice country. Why don't we start buying the cars that are made in America? We could do a lot on our own instead of standing up talking about what we ought to do. If we raise farm wages up to $15 an hour, they'll still grow crops. They'll do it in Pennsylvania. They'll do it in New Jersey. They'll do it in Ohio. We all have to eat. But we ought to take a look at ourselves, realize that we are the ones that we have a platform here. As elected officials, we have to tell people what's wrong, why it's wrong, and how to fix it. And I think that this problem, we're not going to solve it in New York State by sending jobs outside the state. We need to let our representatives down in Washington know we need to level the playing field. And that'll take care of a lot of the problems that we're talking about today. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the time.